In this lesson, we're going to begin a series of lessons about finding surface area. For this lesson, we're going to focus on the surface area of a prism. So let's start out by talking what a prism is. A prism is a three-dimensional figure with two congruent parallel faces called bases. The other sides are called your lateral faces. So they're all going to be parallel. So shapes such as a rectangular prism, so those bases are going to be a rectangle, a square prism, so the name of, or the base of that one is going to be a square. A cube. So the base of a cube is also a square. The difference between a square prism and a cube are your lateral faces of a square prism are rectangles. In a cube, all of your faces are squares. And then the last type of prism is a triangular prism. And those bases are a triangle. So today we're going to focus on the rectangular, square, prisms, and the cube, and finding the surface area of those. So what the surface area is, the surface area of a prism is the sum of the area of the bases and lateral faces. So you're going to be finding the area. That's a very important word. Area plays a big part of finding surface area. You're going to be finding the area of pretty much all of your faces, so your bases and your lateral faces, and then you add together all of those areas. So typically you're going to be adding together 6 different areas, or in some cases 5 areas, or 3 areas. One thing that's helpful when finding surface area is using nets. A net is a 2-dimensional composite figure that shows each face of a 3-dimensional figure. So a net is kind of like a 3D figure unfolded so that you can see that 3D figure and all of its faces. And it's very useful when finding surface area. So let's look at a rectangular prism. So here you can see a rectangular prism with my dimensions of 8, 12, and 5 feet. And then to the right of that, that's going to be a net of that same rectangular prism. So if we were to unfold that prism and lay it flat, that's what it would look like. So first, we're going to label the dimensions of the net using the dimensions of the prism, and then we're going to find the surface area. So when I label my dimensions and I imagine it unfolded, this side here would be 5 feet, and this is 12 feet, 8 feet by 12 feet, and then this side over here is 8 by 5, and then this one is 8 by 12. So take a minute to compare that net and the prism and the dimensions to see if you can see where those dimensions come from as it is unfolded. So next we're going to find the area of each one of those faces. So starting with this face, to find the area, it's a rectangle, so we're going to do 12 times 5. 12 times 5 is 60. Then our next face here would be 8 times 5, because we're using the 8 here and the 5 here that lines up at the end. And 8 times 5 is 40. Up here at the top, 12 times 8 is 96. I think I forgot to label one of my sides there. That should be an 8 there. And then this one in the middle here, that's a 12 by 5. So it's 12 along here, how it's labeled at the top, and 5 on the side. So 12 times 5 is, again, it's 60. And then this one, 8 times 5 is 40. And then this last one, 12 times 8 is 96 again. So we have 6 faces. We want to add those areas together. So to get the surface area, we're going to say 60 plus 40 plus 60 plus 40. So those are our rectangles in the middle. And the 2 on the end plus 96 plus 96. So when I add all of those together, I get a total surface area of 392. And our unit is feet. And surface area is just like area. It's going to be feet squared. So we know how to find the area of shapes. So it's taking our knowledge of finding the area of shapes and applying it to surface area. And like I said, most of the shapes we look at are going to either be 6 faces, so the one we just looked at, a rectangular prism, a square prism, and a cube. They all have 6 faces. So you should be adding together 6 different areas. Go ahead and highlight number 2 on that next page. And then we're going to keep looking at rectangular prisms, but from a little different way. So there is a formula to help you find the surface area of a rectangular prism. Sometimes that formula is helpful, and sometimes it's just easier to remember, find the area of all of them and add them up. The formula is surface area equals 2 times length times width plus 2 times length times height plus 2 times width times height. But then again, it's very important to make sure that you're labeling that net correctly. So when we look at this net, we have, again, the prism on the left, our net on the right. Our width is here, and our length is here. And then the rectangle on the top, we have the length again with the height, and then the width, and this is our length, and then our height. So it's putting some letters, length, width, and height with those numbers so that you can use the formula. So looking at number 3 is a square prism. So if we were to use that formula, so that formula 2, put down here, 2 times length times width plus 2 times length times height plus 2 times width times height. What you would first want to do is identify your length, width, and height. So the length of this one is 5, the width is 3, and the height is 18. So if you know the formula and you can identify what the length, width, and height are, you can just plug it into the formula. So that would be 2 times 5 times 3 plus 2 times 5 times 18 plus 2 times 3 times 18. So again, I'm just taking this length, width, and height and plugging them in to the appropriate spot of the formula. And then I can use a calculator to multiply. So 2 times 5 times 3, that is 30, plus 2 times 5 times 18, that's 108, plus 2 times 3 times 18 is 180. And when we add those together, we get 318. And our units are feet squared. So it's two ways to think about how you're finding the surface area. So you can use a net to visually see and find the area of each individual one and add them up. Or you can use the formula, identify your length, width, and height, and then plug it into the formula that way. Go ahead and highlight 4, 5, and 6 and give finding the surface area of rectangular prisms a try.